Yes. So Shoughi Effendi established or appointed the First International Baha'i Council on January 9th of 1951, and Mason Rimmy, Abdulbaha's son, which we've explained earlier, was the president of it, which is how we recognize it. Well, it never had a meeting. That during his lifetime, he would give the officers tasks to do. Like Mason Rimmy was the president, he was the representative of the Bahai Faith to the State of Israel government on behalf of the IBC. And Mason Rimy's listed in the Israeli state yearbooks as the president of the IBC. So there's no doubt about this at all. And other of the officers were given different tasks, like Udo Giasheri and Leroy Ios. They did some work bringing stone and marble from Italy for the building of the Shrine of the Bab. Ria Khanum was the liaison officer to the council. Shoughi Effendi would actually give her the instructions, and the people would have her show up and give them the true instructions. And this happened with the believers also. Not a lot of the believers met Shoughi Effendi, but Ria Khanum would represent him. So they got used to, in the last years of his life, having Ria Khanum show up at a meeting and deferring to her as if she was Shoughi Effendi with all his infallibility. This is why when he passed on, the people were inclined through habit to turn to Ria Khanum and just listen to whatever she had to say, instead of using their intellects to look at the will and testament, to recognize that Mason Rimmy was the president of that first Universal House of Justice. So what happened is when they turned to her, she got them to listen to her and to turn to a conclave that the hands were going to have a meeting to decide the fate of the faith. What should have happened was Mason Rimmy and Ria Khanum, being the two members of the Holy Family, should have gotten together with divine unity and called a meeting of the other 7 members of the First International Baha'i Council. Had the 9 of them met together in divine unity and they were turned to for guidance, the Bahai Faith wouldn't have sank like the Titanic through the violation of the hands, and the catastrophe that's upon all the people of the world now, both in the Ukraine and spiritually, wouldn't be upon us. So that the members of that First International Council all fell away into violation with the hands. So the First International Baha'i Council never had a meeting, and it was aborted in embryo. So what Shoughi Effendi's legacy is that he gives us the 4-stage constitution of how that IBC UHJ will evolve in 4 stages, the next phase becoming the international tribunal that shall be elected that'll bring peace to the world. Instead, they've completely separated from this. They have this other fictitious concept of what religion and spirituality and human society are, and don't understand the tablets of the divine plan and the divine mission of the Bahais, who are under the provisions of the covenant, to help the world establish a system where war will no longer be acceptable for the settlement of international human disputes. And that will happen with the election of this international tribunal. And by violating the covenant, they sort of just, and it was God's will that this would happen, postponed or lengthened the 4-stage constitution of the evolution of the House of Justice that Shoughi Effendi implemented and set up. So Bahaullah revealed the House of Justice in his covenant. Abdulbaha delineates the House of Justice with the Davidic king as the permanent member for the 5,000 century cycle of the House of Justice in the Will and Testament. And then Shoughi Effendi constitutes how this House of Justice will go through 4 stages of evolution until it reaches this elected phase. So the first International Baha'i Council was aborted in embryo by the hands. It never took a breath. It never had a meeting. And this authorized a person, the establisher of the Bahai Faith, the seventh angel mentioned in some answered questions, reestablished what Baha'u'llah revealed, Abdulbaha delineated, and Shoughi Effendi implemented as the constitution. He reestablished that as the Second International Baha'i Council on the 50-year anniversary, January 9th, 1991, 50 years from January 9th, 1951, with Abdulbaha's grandson, the only son of Mason ریمی, his adopted son Pepe, and therefore an Agsan, as the president of the Second International Baha'i Council. And I was an original appointed member of that board also, and was able to function on it from its inception today. So I've been working on the board since 91, all the way till today. So that's 31 years, I think, if I've added that correctly. Yeah, I think I have. And for the first 4 years, 91, 92, 93, and 94, Pepe was the guardian of the Baha'i Faith, but said that he didn't want to have any administrative functions or duties. And it says that if the guardian is unable to attend the meetings of the House of Justice, he can appoint somebody to represent him. So my role on there was as the heir apparent, and I basically functioned as the executive branch administratively in the community by promulgating the teachings, even though Pepe was still alive and the actual guardian of the faith. And then in 1994, on April 11th, when he passed on, that's when I had my accession to the presidency and have been functioning fully as the executive branch from that time forward over the last, it'll be 30 years in 2024. So that's what happened to the first International Baha'i Council. And now we have the Second International Baha'i Council, which is the Universal House of Justice.